Hello, it's Friday, it's 9 o'clock. I'm TinaDehaley. Welcome to the programme. March the 29th at 11 p.m. 2019. That is the date that will be fixed in law for Britain to leave the European Union, as Theresa May warns potential Conservative rebels not to try and block the process. Forced out of his dream job as a police officer for being Asian, we talked to Mark Diaz about his pursuit of justice at the hands of Cleveland police, where he says he was systematically bullied and spied on. He's now been awarded £500,000 in compensation. We get the full story later in the programme. Women may only need to have 3 smear tests in their lifetime if they've had a vaccine against a virus called HPV, which can cause the disease. At the moment, women are offered 12 tests. We will be talking to a mum who's had cervical cancer about how it was discovered. Been another fractious week in politics, with a second resignation at the top of Theresa May's government and questions about her future looming large. As Brexit talks in Brussels resume today, the Prime Minister has said she won't stand for any attempt by pro-Remain MPs to try and block the Brexit process, and has announced that Lord Heseltine, I want to come to you first of all. From a strong and stable leadership to a cabinet in chaos, how much authority does Theresa May have at this moment in time? Christmas, do you agree? Do you still think Brexit should be avoided? Chaos, a sense of panic, surely that's unhelpful.
Well, it is unhelpful.
Brexit deal on the table for the British people.
Benita, what do you think? Do you agree with Samantha's points? You need to back Theresa May, and she is in a strong position?
I do think we are only 5 months into this government.
Ministers have quit.
Absolutely. It is an exceptional week, as you say. It's not a normal.
Okay, to people in Europe, European leaders, is that the UK government is in chaos at the moment.
I think that's unfair. I don't think they're
fair, but EU leaders are speculating that Theresa May not be in power by Christmas.
I just think speculation.
Will be left holding the baby. Now, where I disagree with your two very articulate ladies is that they...
How does the Conservative Party go about engaging with younger voters, especially, many of whom voted to remain? Indeed, we have to leave it there. Still to come on the programme is the against human papillomavirus, or HPV, which is thought to cause about 99% of cervical cancers, may only need 3 smear tests in their lifetime. That's according to a new study. Since 2008, the HPV vaccine has been offered to girls aged 11 to 13, and reported cases have fallen sharply since then. A team from Queen Mary University of London found that screenings at age 30, 40 and 55 would offer the same benefit to these young women as the current 12 screenings. The study comes ahead of changes being planned to the screening programme in England for 2019 and similar adjustments in Scotland and Wales. At the moment, labs test for abnormalities in cells taken in a smear test, but the new test will check for the presence of HPV first and only check for abnormal. Nicola, I'm going to come to you first of all. Tell us a bit more about why this study is so significant.
So this was a study funded by Cancer Research UK,
and why does that matter? Why 3 rather than 12?
We're keen to make sure that women are still getting this.
Human papillomavirus, what is it?
So it's a virus which is linked to all cases of cervical cancer. For most people, you'll get infected with the virus and clear it.
And Mandy, you were diagnosed with cervical cancer in 2015. Yeah. Can you tell us what happened? How did you find out?
It was through my regular screening, so I've never missed one.
Then it's down to luck for you, because you were approaching a screening, yeah, and otherwise it would have been if you... Another 3 years?
Yes, another 3 years. And it's so easy. It's, you know, women lead these busy lives.
Come in. So this is what the study has found. When could this new screening programme kick in?
I think the important thing to say is this is a...
Right, that's it. I only need to go and get 3,
exactly,
be screened 3 times in my lifetime. The key thing is having had that HPV vaccine at a young age. Before, I know you want to come in, how long, once you've had that, if schoolgirls are having the HPV vaccine, how long does that last?
Well,
I want to come in before we come back to the reasons why.
Yes. Yeah, I just want to add, the main aim of the cervical screening programme is actually before it turns into cancer.
So could we then, in theory, get to a stage where you really do minimise cases of serious cervical cancer.
Yeah, we've seen huge
Don't
drops
want
already.
to use the word.
Another piece of work that Peter's done suggests that if people took the screening off...
You're saying there are declining numbers of women who are going for their screening.
Yes.
So why?
Well, it's interesting. I think there's a mix of reasons.
Apart from the obvious that, it's not necessarily the procedure itself, although it doesn't take very long, it might not be the most comfortable thing to do.
We've got a huge amount of work to promote it, and programmes like this are very helpful.
OK, so I'm going to give you, just to finish, your final pitch then to the people watching the programme who perhaps have ignored that doctor's letter, haven't been for a screening. What would you say to them? Mandy, let's start with you.
I would say it's essential. Just go. It doesn't matter if you've missed a letter, but
Indeed. Now, coming up, a last-minute goal at Anfield to win the... Yet more allegations about inappropriate sexual behaviour in Hollywood. The actor Steven Seagal is the latest star to be accused of sexual harassment after this tweet from the actress. Meanwhile, Emmy Award-winning US comedian Louis C.K.'s movie premiere has been cancelled hours before the screening as 5 women accused him of sexual misconduct. The BBC has contacted his manager for a comment. Well, we can speak now to the Hollywood reporter Gail Murphy, who is in Los Angeles. Gail, very good morning to you. Can you tell us what the latest allegations are?
Well,
Out a lot of these claims, these allegations through social media channels. The media's breaking these stories first. What can you give us a sense of the mood, the reaction in Hollywood?
Well,
Hello, it's 10 o'clock. I'm TinaDehaley. Theresa May says she wants to put the date and time when the UK will leave the EU into law. And it will be 11 p.m. on the 29th of March. Well, earlier I spoke to James Farrar, the Uber driver who brought the drivers' rights case against the firm. Olivia Dobbier. James, you won the tribunal last year. How worried are you about the outcome of this appeal?
Billion-dollar corporation, and we're very lucky to have the backing of our union, the IWGB, to do that.
In the first place, taking on a company worth more than, like you say, $60 billion. How confident were you at the time?
Well, I mean,
Bring you in. You're an Uber driver. Do you not want to be paid minimum wage, get sick pay, holiday pay?
Well, I earn more than minimum wage. I do earn about £18 an hour after they take their commission. It is a bit of a potluck. I don't know what there is of the advantage with minimum wage. I don't really understand, to be honest.
Olivia, what could this appeal mean for the gig economy, not just for Uber?
Well, I think a really important distinction to tease out, and I think a little bit of confusion has come across even in this panel, if I may say so, is that Uber drivers are employees, which would be quite a striking finding. It simply found that they are workers, which is this an intermediate category.
To an employee?
An employee has a higher level of protection, so unfair dismissal, protection against redundancy, and other rights as well. So time off for holiday. And so the decision last year didn't mean that Uber drivers are entitled to protection for unfair dismissal or redundancy pay, and it equally doesn't. Well, there's a cost for Uber. Obviously, if they have to pay holiday pay, that's going to increase the costs of what they have to pay the drivers. There'll be an actual fit, but I understand some people challenge that. And if that's the case, then there'd be additional cost as well if they're required to guarantee minimum wage for their
Which
drivers.
way do you think the appeal will go?
I'd be surprised
for other workers working in the gig economy.
Well, each decision, any legal decision, is about
signing for what it was attractive to me because I didn't know where I was going when I was picking a passenger up. It's quite an adventure. I like people. I like driving.
But let me tell you a different story. One of our co-claimants, a good friend of mine involved in this case, has a child who's very, very sick in Great Ormond Street Hospital. The family's almost residential there during...
What about the impact on prices? Because when you're talking about the business model, if Uber is going to have to pay more to cover those extra things, that could then, it probably would, have the knock-on effect of driving up the prices for customers. Olivia?
I think that's likely. I don't know how they'll...
It's realistic. In reality, some analysis has been done that really at present fares, the customer's only paying about 60% of the true cost. The reality is the fares are unrealistically low at the moment.
If someone's used to paying a fiver to get from A to B, they're not going to want to pay more.
That's true, but the problem with that is that we're bus...
Public transport. You know, there is no protection for us on public transport. You know, you get assaulted on buses, on trains. TfL aren't addressing that.
That's in your opinion, because we can't speak for all women.
Okay, but
from your
I'm listening
experience.
to a lot of women, talking to a lot of women. I have a lot of look to self-employment and being supported by Uber, which they've done amazingly, as well as you telling the story. I'm really sorry to hear about that driver with a child in Great Ormond Street, but you know, we're all working against something, and I haven't found fault with Uber in the support they've given me and the car company that I rent from.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. Emma, Olivia, James, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Institutional racism. Without using any offensive terms, can you give me some concrete examples of the type of behaviour you witnessed? The positive and professional organisational behaviours of 2017. He's also said that Cleveland Police has moved forwards significantly. So you're saying you disagree with that? Deleted. Let's get more from our Home Affairs correspondent, Danny Shaw. Very good morning to you. What more can you tell us about this case?
Well, this is an important case, I think, that will resonate with a lot of people who have issues.
To try to combat so-called revenge porn is being trialled in Australia. It would mean humans, instead of computer algorithms, viewing naked images that are voluntarily sent to Facebook. The photograph would then have its fingerprint taken so it couldn't be uploaded again by disgruntled ex-lovers. Facebook has said, well, we can now talk to Laura Higgins, who runs a helpline for victims of revenge porn. And we can also speak to Fevzi Turkalp, who runs a website to do with social media, and he also does some weekly podcasts and other bits and pieces. Thank you for joining us, both of you. Laura, I want to come to you first of all. What's your response to this pilot scheme in Australia? Photograph, you would then send it preemptively to Facebook, for example. Another human being who you don't know would have a look at that photograph and I suppose give it a fingerprint, which means that it can't then be shared publicly after that. That's my understanding.
Position, but they are specially trained. They are sort of working with our organisations to make sure that it's as safe as possible. It's a brand new project. It's never been done before, and certainly it does put them...
Likely that if this does come in, people will take Facebook up on this offer?
I think how effective will this be? So they use artificial intelligence software to scan the image and, as you say, produce a digital moment, even the best artificial intelligence programs. And we see examples of that with, even though a human being will see it as being the same.
So what you're saying is people could, if they have the same photograph, tweak it slightly, and then they're potentially able to post the same photo virtually online anyway.
Yeah, I mean, forwarding it to Facebook and or others on the risk that because a relationship has broken down and they're worried, you know. So
how big a problem is it?
Since we launched, we've had well over...
If this is successful?
I'd really like to see that. As I say, this is a brand new thing.
Do you think realistically this could become one of the solutions for dealing with revenge porn?
Yeah, I think...
Joe Fox went from being homeless to... The plot of a new BBC drama, The Boy with the Top Knot, is based on the real-life memoirs of Satnam Sanghera. Born to traditional Sikh parents in Wolverhampton, Satnam went on to study at Cambridge and became a successful journalist. But it wasn't until his late 20s that he learned a painful family secret about mental illness in his family. Sasha Dewan, who plays Satnam, is here with me. But before we talk to you, let's watch a little clip.
But it was actually my girlfriend that had a serious word with me and said, you're turning this down because you're scared of the challenge. And
it comes across as being very authentic. A lot of the detail in it is very accurate. I could relate to. They could have been conversations that happened in my household. How did you feel about getting across that authenticity? And also, like you say, this isn't a fictional character. This is Satnam's life.
Yeah, this is exactly what you...
For The Boy with the Top Knots on BBC 2 on Monday at 9.